Hi, my name's Andy Russell. I'm an admissions counselor with Luther College in Decorah, Iowa. So I'll go through kind of some basics about Luther, and then we'll have a chance for some questions at the end. So Luther is in Northeast Iowa, about 2.5 hours south of the Minneapolis-St. Paul area and the airport there, and about 5 hours northwest of Chicago, just to kind of give you an idea of the geography there. We are a liberal arts college, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second here. Around 2,500 students, 500 to 600 per class, typically. We're located in what's called bluff country, or the driftless region. So typically when you think of Iowa, you might think of kind of flat cornfield land. There's this strip on eastern Minnesota, southwestern Wisconsin, northeast Iowa, where little geography here in the last ice age, the glaciers missed it, so it didn't flatten it out like the rest of that part of the country. Lots of rolling hills and bluffs, river running right through campus, and we'll see more about that in a second. So I wanted to kind of give you an idea of where Luther is, what the geography is like before we talk about specifics of the school. So now that we know kind of where we're at, who comes to Luther, a small liberal arts school in Northeast Iowa? It's super important to know who you're going to be in school with, in addition to knowing about the actual school itself. So this infographic here might give you an idea of that. We have, on any given year, typically 40 states will be represented at Luther, as well as 65 countries. And like I said, around 550 to 600 students, first-year students each year. So kind of let you browse this for a second here. States that typically get fewer students from would be the northeast part of the country. The rest of the country, we're pretty across the board there. Most of our students actually come from Minnesota, followed by Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois after that. And beyond those kind of Midwest states, Colorado and California are actually our two largest states besides those first four. So we do get some West Coast represented there, and those are the students that I work with directly. So at Luther, we have over 60 areas of study, including 9 pre-professional programs. So I'm going to talk about a couple of them specifically that I think might hit some people's interests. We have a great computer science program, including a new major that was just added. I think this past year was its first or second year, I think first year, a data science major. So that's looking at kind of big data, how do we analyze that in reference to, like pharmaceuticals or aid relief, or like Google has data scientists. It's kind of broadly applicable. So really progressive there in our computer science program. Another one that a lot of students are interested in, especially who come from a little farther away, is our nursing program. So we offer a 4-year nursing degree. There is a direct entry option for high achieving students, which would typically be a 3.8 GPA and a 27 on the ACT in high school. Let's see, what else would that be? 27 ACT or SAT, that'd be a 1220. I don't always remember the conversion there. And we'll talk about application requirements in a while here. But yeah, for that direct entry nursing program, for those of you who are interested in that, that's what that would look like. Otherwise, you would apply after your first semester of our nursing program. The thing that kind of sets our nursing program apart is our nurses spend their junior year at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. If you type into your phone or your computer right now, top hospitals in the country, the Mayo Clinic will either be the first or second one that pops up. Johns Hopkins is usually the other one. So really top medical center, and that's where our nurses spend their entire junior year living there, which is about an hour from campus. So they'll be living with other nursing students, spending their time at a variety of clinics, and a bunch of different rotations there. So nursing, computer science, we talked about those. Music is one thing that Luther is probably most well known for. So around a third of Luther students participate in a music ensemble of some kind. That doesn't mean all of those people are studying music. So for students who are participating in music in high school and really enjoy it and think it enriches their lives, don't necessarily want to study or grow into that as a career, Luther's a great option of a place where you can study math, science, whatever it may be, and still be able to participate in those music ensembles. And we'll talk about music a little more in a second here, but that is an option for an area of study as well. Music education is one of our larger departments. Our biggest major by the numbers is biology, which is most of those students are kind of the human side of biology, the pre-med side of biology, as well as a large chunk of environmental science students, which overlaps with biology a bit. And that kind of ties into this 9 pre-professional programs that you see right there. So that would include pre-dentistry, pre-physical therapy, pre-chiropractic, pre-med, pre-law, things like that. And so that's all listed on our website. You can definitely check that out later. So those are kind of the highlights for majors that I wanted to mention up front. And again, there's obviously more information on the website, and I'm definitely available for questions at the end regarding that. So another good thing that I like to talk about when I think about Luther are kind of some of the accolades that we've been given in recent years. So we are a Phi Beta Kappa honor chapter, which is an honor given to less than 10% of colleges nationwide. So it's reserved for those really high quality schools with a commitment to high education, really engaging learning where students are interacting with faculty a lot. So we are a Phi Beta Kappa institution, which is a great honor of ours. In our history, we've produced 8 Rhodes Scholars, which is the most prestigious scholarship that an undergraduate student can receive. This is a picture of Georgiana Whiteley. I actually attended Luther with her. She graduated around the same time I did, received a Rhodes Scholarship upon graduating. We are also considered a top producing Fulbright college. We send multiple Fulbright scholars abroad after graduating each year. This is a quote from Frank Bruni, a New York Times writer, which I think just speaks to Luther's commitment to producing kind of top scholars. Luther has proven to be a surprisingly sturdy cradle for winners of some of the most prestigious academic prizes. So this isn't something that we're just making up and saying about ourselves. This is something that's very real and been consistent over the years, and we're super, super proud of it, proud of our students for that. So one aspect that is unique to Luther is our Paideia program, and so I'm going to talk about what Paideia is kind of in conjunction with liberal arts. I think some people are familiar with liberal arts and what it entails. Other people are, might hear the word and not exactly know what it means. So what it means to be a liberal arts college is that we value the breadth of learning as well as the depth of learning, I guess you could say. So the depth of learning being kind of a deep dive into your own academic discipline, whether that's music, business, anthropology, math, whatever it may be. You're taking kind of deep classes, really getting to the core of that. At the same time, you're also taking classes across other disciplines, which would be the breadth of knowledge. So you're taking, you're a science major, you're also taking anthropology classes to fulfill some credit, and that in turn complements your own major. So we're hoping that when our students graduate, they're prepared, they have kind of the depth of knowledge that they need to get into their chosen field, as well as this breadth of knowledge to place themselves within the larger world. So they're not becoming kind of tunnel visioned within their area of study, but they're able to think and compare and contrast and kind of view how their vocation or profession might fit into this larger global society that we have. So a pillar of our liberal arts education at Luther is our Paideia program, this crazy word right here. Learning Together in Luther's signature program. So your first year on campus, every student will take Paideia all year. So what Paideia is, I think I have another picture here. Yeah, it's combining critical thinking with writing skills and problem solving. A professor from every department on campus teaches Paideia. Some departments have multiple professors. So you might be taking Paideia from an English professor, and your roommate might be taking Paideia from a dance professor. It's not uncommon for schools to have kind of this core class as a first year, especially a liberal arts institution. What sets Paideia apart a little bit is that the curriculum is the same across every class section. So you and your roommate, again, maybe different professors in totally different disciplines, but you're reading the same books, you're having quizzes on the same day, papers are due on the same day, which I love because it really creates a kind of cohesive first year experience. So if you meet someone new, you're like, I've asked all the questions, I don't really know what else to ask them, this feels awkward. You can definitely talk about Paideia, and you're all going through the same thing with that and learning the same things there. So the hope of that is that we are reading these texts that are often kind of socially oriented, talking about maybe a struggle that a group of people has gone through in the past, or kind of a philosophy thing. We read some ancient Greek texts, that type of thing. So kind of across the board there, and then you're sitting around and you're discussing it in whatever way your professor sees fit. So again, that discussion will look a little bit different depending on the professor. but you're all talking about the same things and kind of coming together your second semester culminating in this Paideia research project. So after you leave Paideia your first year, you'll feel comfortable with how to read text and think critically about them, both fiction, novels, that type of thing, as well as maybe philosophy, historical documents, that type of thing. Writing skills, you'll work on a lot there, as well as research skills. So learning how to use our library, our interlibrary loan, how do you use an online journal database, which maybe you did in high school, I definitely didn't. But how do you kind of read these scholarly articles and apply them to what you're thinking about? And problem solving and communicating with your classmates is the hope of Paideia. And then it becomes applicable to all majors beyond that. Everyone at Luther is going to use those skills, whether they go on to study science or English or whatever it may be after their first year. Yeah, so that's Paideia. I think it gives a good example of how we value community at Luther, all these first year students having the same experience, as well as high academic demand. Your senior year, you'll take a Paideia, what's called a capstone course. So that could be a semester long or just for the month of January. We'll talk about that J term, it's called, in a minute here. And what that Paideia course would look like would be something a little more specific to your interests. So it could be studying Chinese cinema and the effect that it had on a certain aspect of culture, or looking at social justice and aid work in Malawi or whatever it may be. And then you'll write a research paper there. So the hope is that you've gained, or the goal is that you've gained those research experiences your first year, those critical thinking experiences, and then your senior year, you're able to kind of showcase that in this capstone course. Does anyone have any questions right now before we head forward? Okay, we'll definitely have more time at the end, but I wanted to make sure if you needed to jump in that you had a chance. I know this is kind of a lot of information at once. So I mentioned January term or J term. Again, some of you might be super familiar with what that is. Other people not as much. It's not as common for like a public university to have something like a J term. It's not uncommon for smaller private schools to have a J term or a May term. So definitely something to think about when you're looking at your college. So Luther operates on what we call a 4-1-4 calendar. So typically that would mean you take 4 classes in your fall semester, you take 1 course over January, and you take 4 classes in your spring semester. So January or J term is kind of its own standalone, like mini semester, if you will. In J term, you'll take your first year, you'll take 1 course on campus. You'll have that class every day, 4 or 5 days a week for a couple, maybe 3 hours a day, and that's the only thing you're doing. It's the time to really dive into kind of a specific area of interest or something kind of out of your box of study, but that you really are interested in. So these are kind of, I like to think of them as kind of brainchilds of our professors. So there's a course that explores Frankenstein and the author Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein, and kind of her life and why she created this monster. There's a course about Disney and their history. There's a course about I don't know, you name it. There's so many different options, and they're a little bit more kind of specific, something you maybe won't get exposed to otherwise, but again, still building on that liberal arts concept, that discussion-based class concept. So that's what a first year seminar would look like. The other option for your first J term, if you are interested in education, this is a really fantastic opportunity. We have a really active education department. It's one of our departments we're super proud of. Our first year students in January spend the month in a local high school in the Decorah, Iowa area where Luther is, teaching, getting in with a teacher, shadowing, if you will, as well as jumping in to teach some lessons. And what that does is it allows our education students to decide right away in that first year whether this is something that they love, like what age maybe they're interested in teaching, or maybe they're like, oh, maybe teaching isn't quite what I thought it was going to be, but now I have time to look for something new. A lot of schools wouldn't offer something like that until a little bit later. We really value offering that in that first year so that we can help you make that decision up front and then kind of know how to move forward from there. Study abroad. I think we might talk about this a little more in a little bit here, but J-term is a great opportunity to study abroad. So around I think it's a little under 3/4 of our students, or right around 3/4 of our students study abroad at some point in their college career, which is pretty high for a college. And many of those students choose to do that during J term. So again, I like to think about these classes as well as kind of brainchilds of these professors, these kind of classes that they've molded into something that they think is important. A professor will take a group of students, typically 10 to 15, somewhere in that range, on these study abroad courses. So I'm an alumni of Luther, as I mentioned before. I graduated a few years ago, and I did a J-term study abroad in Ecuador and the Galapagos. So I actually think this picture is from a different year of that trip that they did. We, just to give you an idea of what a J-term could look like, we spent a week in Ecuador in the high cloud forest, a week in the Amazon rainforest, and then a week in the Galapagos Islands, studying ecology and biology from kind of an ecological perspective, looking at the different things that exist in these environments. Other study abroad courses, there's a really neat one that a lot of people do. It's C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien, so the authors of the Chronicles of Narnia and much more, and then the author of Lord of the Rings, and how their lives kind of mirrored each other's and intersected, where they drank coffee in the mornings and wrote, where they grabbed a beer at night and chatted, and you kind of follow their lives along with reading these texts. So again, for students who might not be interested in studying abroad for a full semester or a full year, J-term is a super wonderful opportunity for that, and it does give you credit towards your major or college credit in general. Other opportunities for J-term internships. We have a wonderful career center that will connect you with internships as you wish. J-term's a great opportunity to do that, especially in your first couple years, kind of dip your toes in a couple different things, see what you're interested in. Again, it's like you think you might be interested in something and you go into an internship and it really confirms that and affirms that and you feel really great about it, or you think, hey, maybe I should try something else. So we really value those internship opportunities as well. Research is another thing that a number of students do during January and beyond. So Luther is an undergraduate only institution, meaning we don't have any master's programs or graduate students. What that does is it allows our undergraduate students from their first year up through their senior year to get partnered up with a faculty member and do direct research with them. So that is something unique, I think, often to institutions that only offer undergraduate degrees. Oftentimes those research opportunities would go to those master's students at maybe a larger university. So that's something we're really proud of at Luther, and that's something you could do during January term. Excuse me. Or as your on-campus job, your work study, opportunities are plentiful there. So there's plenty of information on our website about some research opportunities. Don't want to spend too much time on it right now. I know there's a lot of information again, but if research is something that you're interested in, there's plenty of opportunities for that at Luther. Okay, so we've talked about kind of the academic side of things, where Luther is, who goes there, as well as what will you do academically, which is super important and obviously the focus of your college career. But beyond that, you want to make sure that you fit in with what people do socially, with how they spend their time, the things they do for fun, all of that. So on campus, we have over 100 student organizations, which is a lot considering the size of the campus is relatively small, around 2,500 students. It's also extremely easy to start a campus organization. You just need yourself, and I think it's 2 other friends. You come up with a mission statement, you say, here's what we're gonna do, you get a faculty member to sign off on it, and you have your club. So super easy. If you see something that you want to do and it's not on campus, we really encourage students to do that, take a leadership role there. This picture here is from our dance marathon, which was a new thing that we started, let's see, fall of 2013 would have been our first dance marathon. And it's been going strong ever since. Again, this particular year, $57,000 raised for whatever cause it is at the time, the Children's Hospital in Iowa City, I think is where they mostly give that money to. So again, another great way to get involved either on that committee or just something fun to do on the weekend. Other opportunities of clubs, everything from rec leagues like Ultimate Frisbee. We have a highly competitive Ultimate Frisbee team, to chess club, political clubs, activism, LGBTQ, kind of that type of thing. Student organizations, so our concerts organization is really active. It was something that I was a member of when I went to Luther. In recent years, we've brought Fun, like the band Fun, Macklemore to campus. We've had Kobe Calais and Ingrid Michaelson. We've had Pentatonics. Let's see, I don't have the list in front of me, but tons of big names in recent years that we've been getting to campus. We have a really good reputation for like throwing these high quality concerts. So we get really, really big performers that want to come to campus. If you know Dave Matthews Band at all, he recorded his live album. So Dave Matthews Live at Luther College is an album of his that you can buy, and that was recorded at Luther. So that's another student organization you could get involved in. So again, we talked about student organizations. So what do people do outside of kind of that organized time? This kind of gives you an aerial view of the town of Decorah. So down, let's see, campus is off the map here to the right, I suppose, but you can see Main Street down here. You can see baseball fields, churches in the distance. You can kind of get a feel for the lay of the land, kind of these rolling bluff forestry hills. There's plenty to do in Decorah. As you can see, Smithsonian Magazine ranked it in America's Best 20 Small Towns. Forbes, again, a well-respected publisher there, one of America's 15 prettiest towns. So there's plenty to do in Decorah. It's a tourist attraction for the whole tri-state area there. Tons of great restaurants downtown, hotels where your family comes and visits, as well as activities like poetry slams, trivia nights, all of that. In town, we have 2 microbreweries, which again doesn't apply to all of our students depending on how old they are, but I think it does show that we do attract a number of small business owners, and it really is, it's not, a small town that's kind of boring and dead. There's tons to do. People love to go there. People love to go back and visit. We have really strong alumni weekends. People definitely feel a connection to Decorah, and Decorah feels a connection to Luther. So that's a really neat partnership that we have there. Here's some pictures of Decorah. So this is the Upper Iowa River. I mentioned that runs right behind campus. Kayaking, canoeing, super common. Some people canoe or kayak down the Upper Iowa and camp along the way. You can rent all of this gear from Rec Services for free. We have this bike trail up top, an 11-mile loop running around town and on the edge of campus called the Trout Run Trail, all paved sidewalks. That's a new project within the last few years that's gotten completed, and we get a lot of tourism for that, and a lot of our Luther students love to enjoy that. Again, pictures of downtown here, some historical spaces. This in the middle, this waterfall is Dunning Springs. So there's a couple different waterfalls in the area coming out of the limestone bluffs. This is probably our most popular one. There's a bunch of hiking trails behind it. There's great camping spots. Go and, hang out at Dunning Springs for the day and then go down and grab some ice cream from one of the ice cream shops. That's a common thing that students like to do on the weekends or in the evenings. So there's plenty to do outside of staying on campus. So staying on campus, residential by design, we like to say. So Luther is a 4-year residential college. So one of your first year, you'll live in one of 3 first-year dorms, kind of what you might think of a semi-typical dorm, I suppose. They range from single rooms up to 4-person rooms. You can preference what you want. Our Res Life team works really hard to match you up with students of similar interests. It's kind of like a Match.com for roommates, I suppose you might say. So you fill out like a survey, what kind of music do you like? Do you go to bed early? Do you go to bed late? Are you clean? Are you messy? Do you want to be able to study in your room or hang out in your room? And our Res Life team actually goes through all of that by hand. So it's not just a computer program spitting out your roommate, but a whole team will sit in a room and by hand match you up with someone that they think you'll be compatible with. Because of that, we have a really high success rate for first-year roommates that are placed together. After your first year, your options expand a little bit. Some cluster style living, which is a bunch of dorm rooms around a common living room and bathroom, kind of culminating in a couple options for senior year, one of which is Baker Village. That is kind of townhome style living. So it'd be 6 people in a 4 to 6 bedroom unit. It's two levels, full kitchen, full living room, 2 bathrooms. So very much feels like you're living in like a condo or apartment type thing. So again, residential on campus all 4 years. Doesn't mean you're living in a tiny dorm room for 4 years by any means. And what that does is it really increases the community of campus because students aren't leaving to go home on the weekends. They're not leaving campus, to drive across town to stay in their apartment. People are staying on campus. They're really engaged with campus life. in the evenings and on the weekends. And we think that increases the strength of relationships that people can build with their peers, with faculty members, with staff members, with whatever it may be. But that's why we do that. Some kind of typical college pictures of, what people might do when they're in their free time. So I don't really think there's much more to say about that one. 500 plus student athletes, so a little over a fifth of our students participate in the sport. So we are a Division III, NCAA Division III school, all kind of the major sports that you would think of: football, baseball, golf, softball, men's and women's basketball, volleyball, all of that. There's information on our website about that. Be sure to get that to you at the end there. And there will be a Recruit Me tab. So if you are interested in playing a sport in college, just fill out that Recruit Me tab, and your admissions counselor and a coach will get in touch with you kind of as soon as possible to start that recruiting process. So this picture is actually a little bit out of date. As you can see, our football field is green right there, where we just actually installed a blue football field, blue turf. So super exciting. Just got finished probably 2 weeks ago, very recent. We are the first Division III school in the country to have a blue field, and only the third, maybe fourth, I'm pretty sure third in the country. So Boise State is the other one that people might see on TV, has a blue turf field, and we just installed our own. In the background here, you'll see these are our tennis courts that are being constructed. So they're not completed yet, but it's a $1.1 million tennis facility that one of our alumni funded solely. Really state-of-the-art. This fancy post-tension concrete. I don't know what the material is, but I know it's fancy. I know it's kind of top of the line. So we're really excited about some positive things happening with our athletic facilities there. Okay, so I had mentioned music a little bit earlier, but again, around a third of our students participate in a music ensembles. That could be anything from concert band to choir to orchestra to some a cappella groups that we have, vocal jazz, across the board there. So again, you do not have to be a music major to participate in music. In fact, the majority of our music participants are not music majors. So we really encourage people to get involved outside of their major by playing a sport as well, or music as well, or something like that. This is kind of an abbreviated list of some places our music tours have gone in recent years. So I believe it's 3 of our ensembles tour internationally on a rotating basis. These are some places they've gone recently. More of our ensembles than those 3 tour domestically every year over spring break or winter break, maybe a quick trip over fall break, something like that. So our music program is very active, and it's kind of known outside of just, this Midwestern region. Is kind of known worldwide for its prestige there. Experiential learning. So we talked about research a bit. I want to dive into study abroad a little bit more. So we talked about what study abroad could look like in the month of January for a J-term class. You also have the option of studying abroad beyond that. So if you want to do a semester abroad, what you might think of kind of a typical semester abroad in, let's say, Chile or something like that, and you want to study in a university there, we partner with an outside study abroad organization to coordinate that. So you may or may not be with other Luther students. You'll probably be with other students from other American universities, or kind of creating what your ideal situation is there. There also are a couple unique opportunities, one of which I want to talk about our Nottingham year. So a group of Luther students, as well as a Luther faculty member and his or her family, will go to Nottingham, England for their junior year. Study at the University of Nottingham, as well as taking Luther classes with that professor and each other throughout the year, living in a flat together. So you're very much taking the Luther experience abroad, with a focus on service, learning, volunteering in the community, and getting to see a whole bunch of Europe, hopping on a train on the weekend and seeing a new country. So I know people who did that when I was at Luther, and they just came back with amazing stories, grew in their kind of Luther community because they were there as a group of 15 to 20 students and faculty, as well as making new friends from across the world. So outcomes. This in the middle is our current president of our college. Yeah, this looks like from a commencement ceremony. Our commencement's generally held outside unless we get rained out. Yeah, so it's important, to know what life is going to be like while you're at Luther, but you obviously want to know what life will be like for you after you're done. I like this picture because it shows a little bit about what one of our grads is doing right now. So I'll read that. I left Luther with the confidence and ability to tackle hard problems. The NASA missions I work on are almost incomprehensibly complex, and I need to synthesize solutions based on my own reasoned judgment. This is a 2006 Luther grad. A friend of mine that I graduated with currently works for Google. I know someone who just got hired at Microsoft. I know people who work as, music teachers who spend time abroad, whatever it may be. And I like this kind of infographic here to kind of get a feel for where people go after they graduate. So first 7 months after graduation of our 2015 graduates, 67% were employed, 16% graduate or professional school, 6% volunteer service, 5% continuing education. So that could be student teaching, something like that, 5% intern and apprentice, and less than 1% still seeking. So what that actually looks like in the numbers, I think it's 3 identified as still seeking out of the class of around 600, just 7 months after graduation. So our graduates do see success beyond Luther, and ultimately that's the hope of your education. Again, building enduring relationships at Luther, that's one of our most important things. So the whole time you're there, you're making connections with each other, you're making connections with faculty as well as with alumni once you graduate. So Luther, as you might have guessed from the name, is a faith-based institution. It's a college of the Lutheran Church. What we like to say about that is that at Luther, faith is often encountered but never imposed. So our students come from all faith backgrounds. We're welcoming of people across every faith. We love to have multiple faiths represented. There are opportunities to get involved regardless of what your faith background is or is not. You'll never be asked to do anything that you don't want to with that. So it's very much something that's there if you want it. It shapes decisions we make as an institution, but it's nothing that you'd ever be asked to do if it's not, something that you connect with personally. And again, we love to see people from all religious, all faith backgrounds represented on campus. And we have some really cool opportunities there for discussion and kind of open dialogue about that type of thing. So I can definitely answer more questions about that if people have them. Sustainability and stewardship is kind of one of the last main things that I want to talk about in regards to life at Luther. We are highly committed to sustainability, and not just on papers that we can say, look, we're sustainable, but really at the core of who we are is trying to be a sustainable institution, being good stewards of the land and not, stretching ourselves beyond the resources we have available. So some things that have come out of that kind of core value are these Luther Gardens that you see our students working on here. It's a work study position, an on-campus job. We try to get as much of our cafeteria food as possible from the Luther Gardens. We have a wind turbine, which has popped up in a couple different pictures, that powers around 30% of our on-campus electricity. Baker Village, which is that townhome thing, kind of residential facility that I talked about, is entirely powered by solar panels. It's the largest residential facility in the state of Iowa that is entirely run on renewable energy. So there's a lot of great initiatives on campus for that type of thing, and we really encourage our students to get involved with that and kind of find where they fit into that piece of sustainability. Just a couple of resources I wanted to list on here. College Navigator, how do you find the right college for you, as well as this net price calculator. So when we're looking at financials at Luther, let's see, where did I go? I'll just stay on this one. So our financials for the incoming class of 2017, so people starting in just a couple weeks here, what we have available right now, we're reworking scholarships and stuff for next fall, so pretty soon all of that information will be available. So for this fall, incoming class tuition is $49,990. And I know that seems like a big, scary number. That includes room, board, academics, everything like that. The average financial aid package, including merit-based scholarships and need-based aid, comes out to around $35,000, which is a big number. So that knocks that down a lot. So my recommendation always to students is you never know what kind of financial aid a college will give. Luther is highly committed to making our education affordable. And we love to be in conversation with students about how we can make it work for them. So when we're looking at admissions statistics, our average ACT and average SAT scores are listed here. I'll let you kind of browse that as you wish. Minimum that we look for acceptance would be a 21 on the SAT, which is around a 1070, or sorry, 21 on the ACT, which is around a 1070 on the SAT. We take either test. We don't put weight on one more than the other. Either one's perfectly fine. We also look for a 3.0 GPA. If you had a really high GPA and a little bit lower ACT score or vice versa, we're willing to work to work and kind of take it case by case on that. But that's kind of typically what we look at for the minimums there. Out of just under 4,000 applicants for this entering class of 2015, 634 enrolled at Luther. So when you are applying for admission to Luther, you kind of need 5 basic things, I guess. You need a transcript of your high school courses, the actual application that we have out. We do accept the common application and the common application as well as one we have on our website. You need a reference from an educator or a teacher or a guidance counselor. You need your ACT and SAT scores, and then a writing sample. So this could be an essay that you write. I know on the common application they have specific question prompts. We will accept that. We'll also accept if you want to submit a paper that you wrote for your junior year English class that you're really proud of. We'll take that as a writing sample too. So our hope is that you get a chance to share a little bit of your story if you wish. If you feel like there's something you want to talk about that might impact your acceptance, we would love to hear it. We're mostly looking for how do you write? How do you convey your ideas? What's your writing style? So again, that can come in any form. We don't want that essay to be a form of stress, which I know it can be for some people. We just want to see how you write and kind of hear your voice a little bit. Rolling admission for Luther begins in September officially. I actually think our application, I have to double check on this. I'm pretty sure it opened over the weekend. But if it's not, it'll be open here soon. Yeah, and rolling admission, so that means as soon as you submit an application, it's short turnaround, 10 days to a couple weeks before you would hear back. Let's see. So we kind of talked about this already. I guess I should have put this slide a little earlier, but we do offer scholarships. So for this incoming fall, our highest academic scholarship was $22,000 per year, ranging down to $10,000 per year. Need-based aid based on the FAFSA that you fill out, as well as work study. So every student that enrolls at Luther is given the opportunity to work on campus through work study. That money can go directly towards your student account, towards tuition, or it can go in your pocket. It's up to you. So again, every student, regardless of financial need, is given at least 6 hours a week of that, and up to 10 hours based on your financial need, which we get that information from the FAFSA. These are a few of our other scholarships. We mentioned academic. We do offer music scholarships, diversity scholarships, legacy award, cross nursing scholarship, EPIC grants, as well as an alumni scholarship. So if you know an alumni of Luther College and you have a good relationship with them and they refer you to us, that's $1,000 renewable over 4 years in their name. Yeah, some scholarships there. Again, there's more information about all that on our website. And then here is kind of a screenshot of how you can follow us on social media. So I'll leave that up for a second here. We are active on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. I especially encourage following our Snapchat account. We give it to a Luther student, kind of a day in the life of a Luther student, pretty frequently to show you around campus and what does life look like for those people. Yeah, so that's what I have. I know that's a lot of information. I also know I talk really quickly. I've been told that 1,000 times, and it's just who I am. So sorry if it was too fast. But yeah, I'd love to open it up for questions now if anyone's got any.
Hi, Andy. That was just a wealth of information, very comprehensive. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have any questions specific to your intended major? You can type in a question and I will read it, or you can ask verbally.
I have a question about scholarships.
Okay.
So do you give away scholarships like based on like ACT scores, for example?
Yeah, great question. So our academic scholarships will be based on GPA, ACT or SAT score, and class rank if your school does that. If they don't, it doesn't count against you at all. So GPA, ACT score, and then class rank.
So what do you have like a certain like I know some schools have like if you get this score we'll give you this much money, or
yeah, so our the kind of specifics of that are listed on the website, which will give you a little bit better feel for it. For the highest scholarships, we're looking in that 27, 28 range. You're definitely qualify for scholarships down to like 23, 24 in that range. And then it also will incorporate your GPA into that. So if your ACT score wasn't as high as you would like it to be, but you have a really strong GPA, that will impact it as well. And we also are we love being in communication about that. So if you had an ACT score that put you kind of on the verge of the next scholarship level, but you weren't quite there, we often like recommend, hey, you might want to retake that. If you get a couple more points, like you'll be bumped up into the next category. So we really do work with you to kind of get as high as we can together. But yeah, kind of aiming for that 27, 28 range for those higher ones, and then kind of down from there. Does that answer your question?
Well, so I took the ACT, but it was just a practice one, and I didn't study for it at all.
Okay.
And I'm a junior this year, and I got 27 on it.
Wonderful.
So do you have any scholarships that are higher than 27 or 28, or is that just like what you?
Yeah. So that's the information that's kind of being reworked a little bit right now. So our biggest scholarship right now is 22,000. And here, let me see if I can pull that up real quick here. Let's see. See if we can give you kind of the most comprehensive answer, better than I can remember off the top of my head. Scholarships. So again, this is for this incoming year, and it'll change a little bit in the coming months. Yeah, so this founder scholarship, 22,000 per year, minimum score of 28 on the on the ACT. So that'll be our highest, and again, that number is likely to go up for this coming year. But yeah, that 28 range is kind of the highest one we offer. Does that make sense?
And for that one, you have to be in the top 5% of your class.
That's kind of typical. We put more, I guess I would say we put more weight on the ACT, SAT score and the GPA because not everyone even has a class rank. So I would pay a little bit less attention to the class rank part of it than I would to the GPA and ACT score part of it. Again, if you're not at that 4.0 grade point average, but you get, a little bit higher on the ACT, it'll balance each other out. So it's kind of this algorithm that we have to figure that out. So these aren't kind of hard and fast numbers here, but can kind of be fluid based on what's a little bit higher.
And is the 4.0 weighted or unweighted?
The 4.0 will be weighted. So how we do that, if your school reports a weighted GPA, we'll look at that. Actually, what we do on our end is we look at your transcript, and for any class that you took that falls in an honors or AP or IB category, will give more weight. So some schools weight things a little bit differently. So we'll actually I would sit down as an admissions counselor and look at your transcript and go through and kind of recalculate the weighted GPA on my own. And then that's the one we would use for the grade point average. So you do get a boost if you've taken honors classes and AP courses.
Okay, yeah, because my school, they add 7 points to the grade point average for each class if it's honors or AP. Mm-hmm. So with that, without the 7 points, with the 7 points, I have a 4.0, but without it, I think I have probably like a 3.8.
Great, yeah. So we would, it kind of depends on the school whether they calculate the weighted thing exactly like we do. But yeah, if you've taken those honors and AP courses, it'll definitely like bump you up for sure. And we would look at the highest of whatever your school reports. So, yeah.
And for nursing, what is like the typical like classes you would take?
Yeah, so again, your first year or first semester, there's a couple intro nursing classes that you would take, and then if you weren't eligible for the direct entry option, which it sounds like you're close to being eligible for that, in which case you're in the nursing program right away. But if for some reason you weren't, you would apply after that first semester. So you're taking courses on campus your first couple years, which will be introduction to nursing. So some of those will be maybe more theoretical and ethical questions and that type of thing, and patient care, how do you act as a good caregiver? Some will be technical hands-on in our lab where you're actually working with like a mannequin to figure out, how to insert IVs, how to wrap injuries, that type of thing, kind of critical care type things. And then that junior year that you would spend at the Mayo Clinic is when you really get all the hands-on experience. So there is more information on our nursing website, which I can pull up here. Oops, nursing, that's not right.
So when you're staying at that clinic, are you still living on campus and driving there every day, or are you living closer to the...
Yeah, good question. So it's a little over an hour from campus, and you would live in generally what you would do is live with other Luther students in housing in Rochester. So you won't be commuting back and forth every day. You'll be living off campus in Rochester, about an hour from campus for that year, and then many of the students come back on weekends or whatever to see people, but you'll be spending the majority of your time in Rochester with other nursing students. So you're still kind of part of that Luther community. With other Luther students, but yeah, you're not living on campus that year. And then, yeah, we don't want you to have to commute an hour both way every day. That would be silly. Yeah, so here's a little bit of information about the nursing here. Yeah, number 1, liberal arts nursing program, and number 2, bachelor's nursing program in Iowa. This one is the one I like to point out, 100% pass rate on the nursing license exam in our most recent graduates, which is obviously a great number to see. We can use this to look at the nursing major requirements, or let's look at program overview here. Yeah, so this page here, which you can navigate yourself to kind of when you have time to dig into it, will go kind of an overview of what each year as a nursing major would look like.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't think so.
I have a question for you, Andy. As
Yeah.
a graduate from Luther, would you mind just talking a little bit about your experience and what you loved in terms of your 4 years at Luther?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so at Luther, I studied biology and math when I was there. I was active with our PALS program, which partners Luther students with kids from the community to do kind of like fun activities a few times a year, as well as our SAC concerts, which I had mentioned, as well as some volunteering in the community. And I did a lot of intramural sports and kind of some fun music things on the side. I wasn't in a music ensemble, but stayed involved in kind of my own way there. So what I loved about Luther was the size of it and the community feel. I think I personally would have felt kind of lost at a larger university. I loved at Luther that people that I met on my first day of class, or that I met in the cafeteria, that I would see them again, that it wasn't like, oh, we have to exchange information right now because I want to be your friend and I'm trying to meet people, but you would definitely see them again because the campus is small enough and people stick around and hang out on campus. So I felt like I was able to get a really solid group of friends very quickly, which actually stayed my friends all 4 years of school. That's one thing I loved. I really love the location of Luther in Decorah. I'm super outdoorsy. Right now I live in Denver, Colorado, and love that. And Decorah really offered a lot for me in that way in terms of hiking and biking and time on the river. It's a very active community. So those are the things that kind of stick out to me right away about things I loved about Luther. I've also, in years since graduating, loved the strong alumni community that exists. Kind of anywhere I go, I can meet someone who graduated from Luther and feels really strongly about it in the same way that I do. So I feel really lucky to be a part of that community. I think more than anything, I endlessly appreciate the perspective on the world that Luther gave me, that they challenged me to think outside of the box, to challenge my own beliefs, make me feel uncomfortable sometimes, and to push myself to grow in that way. So yeah, those probably were my favorite things about Luther. I just feel really lucky to have gone there. I think it was a perfect fit for me. I can't imagine anywhere better. I think I could have been happy enough at other places, but Luther really just kind of nurtured me into becoming the person that I wanted to be. So yeah. Any other questions? Am I supposed to be hearing you right now?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I was talking and didn't realize you couldn't hear. I had muted you. I just thank you so much for your time and time for such a thorough presentation for our students. I really appreciate it, and hope you have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.